Good morning. My name will be your service leader today. We're happy to have our longtime friend and guest speaker here with us today. I'm sure all of you know her that are here, but I'll be introducing her formally later. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Rappahannock. We are a community of people with diverse backgrounds and beliefs coming together in search of spiritual meaning in our lives, believing in the worth and dignity of every living being and the web of life that connects us all. We're glad that you joined us here today. We have refreshments in the back afterwards, and I think some birthdays to celebrate, so be sure to join us. And now is a good time to silence your cell phones if you haven't already. And, look at the bulletin to see the upcoming announcements. May this light be a beacon of hope and goodness in the world. For the opening words, I wanted to talk about this chalice. During the war, a lot of people living in Eastern Europe, Unitarians, Jews, and others, were in danger of being put in prison by the Nazis. And so many of them were running from their own countries and trying to reach other countries of safety. There was a problem in that often there was a language barrier. So a group of Unitarians came together in Boston, Massachusetts, to form the Unitarian Service Committee and to help people with safe passages. The director of the Service Committee was a Unitarian minister named Charles Joy. Reverend Joy decided they needed an official symbol to help identify its members where language differences would not be a problem. He went to a gentleman called Hans Deutsch, who himself had escaped the Nazis in Paris, France. Deutsch was an artist, and he borrowed an old symbol of strength and freedom from Czechoslovakia, a chalice with a flame. Reverend Joy wrote to his friends in Boston and said that the new symbol exemplified the real spirit of the Unitarian, with a chalice that was used for giving a healing drink to others, and the flame on top representing the spirit of helpfulness and sacrifice. And so the flaming chalice became the official symbol. Many years later, the flaming chalice became a symbol of Unitarian Universalist groups all over the world, and by the 1970s, it became a part of the service. One very old woman, and this part really touches me, told how the flaming chalice of her homeland, Czechoslovakia, helped her while she was in a Nazi prison camp. Printed under the picture of the Czech flaming chalice was the motto, Pravda Větší, which means truth overcomes or truth prevails. Every single morning in that terrible camp, the old woman said, she traced a picture of a flaming chalice in the sand with her finger. Then she wrote the motto underneath it. It gave me the strength to live each day, she said. Whenever she drew the chalice in the dirt, she was reminded that someday the world would remember the truth that every single person is important and should be free to think and believe as he or she chooses. May we remember the story of the flaming chalice and the safety, hope, and strength it has given people for hundreds of years. Now, I would like to officially introduce Sara Mackey, though I don't think I really need to, our friend and guest speaker at UUFR since the early days of meeting in the Women's Club. Sara offered the service for the groundbreaking for this building, and later she offered the service for the building dedication. She facilitated the meetings of the Welcoming Congregations Committee years ago when the fellowship decided to do that very important work. Sara volunteered for years at the UU Community Church in Glen Allen, and that work led her to attend Union Presbyterian Seminary in Richmond. She graduated with a Master's of Divinity degree and served Williamsburg Unitarian Universalist as Director of Faith Development for 5 years before returning to seminary work. She is happily retired and is currently an active volunteer in the Celtic service at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in Richmond. Sara has loved UUFR for 25 years and always looks forward to returning as a guest speaker, just as we look forward to having you, Sara.
Good morning, my dear friends. We were talking earlier about the old days, and then I heard that it was Oliver's 22nd birthday, and I knew when Oliver was an infant, and I thought, man, I really have been around a long time, much, much to my joy. But this is from St. John of the Cross from the 16th century. It's called "A Rabbit Noticed My Condition." I was sad one day and went for a walk. I sat in a field. A rabbit noticed my condition and came near. It often does not take more than that to help, just to be close to those who are so full of knowing, so full of love, that they don't chat, they just gaze with marvelous understanding. Okay, we could predict back in November after the election that this year was going to be a circus full of turbulence and turmoil and tricks. So it felt appropriate for me to spend New Year's Day, January 1st, 2025, at the Big Apple Circus in New York City. I went with my son and daughter-in-law and grandson, and the circus ticket was my Christmas present. They knew that I was fascinated by the Big Apple Circus, had been for years, because I saw a documentary about it. And at the time that I saw the documentary, my daughter-in-law was working at School of Visual Arts in New York. And as it turned out, her boss had produced that documentary. After the documentary came out, the Big Apple Circus fell onto hard times financially. They relied so much on donations, and the donations got to be less than they could manage, and they had to sell the physical and intellectual property. So the Big Apple Circus that we saw is a newer iteration. It's a little smaller. It's not quite as dramatic, but it was still a dazzling experience. I've always been fascinated by circus people that are outside of the mainstream, people on the fringes. When I was in seminary, I thought I might like to be a chaplain for the circus. And then I met we were talking about him earlier. I met the chaplain for the Ringling Brothers Circus, and I think he's been here to speak. Anyway, that's a sideline. He was a retired Episcopal priest, and he told me that being the circus chaplain was a difficult job. Circus people have unique challenges, and they don't actually fit into the real world, what I call the real world, easily. The chaplain told me about a young man, maybe in his teens or early 20s, who had been born into the circus. He was an acrobat, if I remember correctly, and could do, from the time he was a tiny child, could do things with his body that you and I couldn't even describe. But he decided he wanted to leave the circus. But he had no formal education. His reading level was about second or third grade. He had no skills for what it would take to get a job that would give him rent and pay the bills in what I would call the real world. It's a good thing that I was not the chaplain for the circus. What would you tell that kid? How would you support that kid? The chaplain said, for people like us that are academically oriented, we carry our intelligence in our minds, but circus people carry their intelligence in their bodies. They have skills that are completely unique and not transferable to the mainstream world. I don't understand how they can do the physically extravagant things that are hard to believe when you watch them. I think the trapeze artists might be my favorite acrobats. And at the Big Apple Circus, we were sitting in a good position to see the ones that were getting ready to do the stunts. Over on one side of the ring was the catcher, and he hung upside down by his knees the whole time. And he never rested, and he showed us what remarkable strength and coordination looked like. How can you even tell upside down what you're seeing? And then where we were sitting, you could look up and watch the people that were getting ready to do the stunts. I watched as one man, he held on, and he just gently went back and forth until it was time. And then he leapt off of the tower or the platform, and he swung higher and higher until you could imagine he was about to touch the top of the tent. And when he got so high, he let go, and he flew across the ring. He did 3 somersaults in midair and stretched out his arms, convinced that his partner on the other trapeze was going to catch him. And he did. It almost brought me to tears. How could anybody do that? It was impossible. Circus people and church people believe impossible things. Well, I'm going to tell you more as soon as I turn my page. I can imagine that in the very earliest circus, people sitting around saying, you know what we could do? We could build 2 swings across from each other, and one person could swing really high and let go, and the other person could catch them. And they said, that's impossible. Why don't we try that? I can imagine in the earliest church, the earliest Christian church, before it was the Christian church. Remember when people were just meeting in their homes and they were sharing the stories of Jesus. That's how they knew about Jesus, was passing the stories around. And I can imagine somebody said, remember, did you hear how he said, we can bring the kingdom of God to right here and right now. And we would do that by giving food to people when they're hungry. And we would do that by welcoming strangers and making sure they had what they need. And we do that by taking care of sick people. And if we see somebody powerful mistreating somebody that's weaker, we would stop them if we could. And that would bring the kingdom of God to right here and right now. That's impossible. Why don't we try that? Circus people and church people believe impossible things. In the original, the first Big Apple Circus, there was an act that didn't happen in the one that I saw, but I saw it in the documentary. A rider and the horse would gallop around the ring, and then the rider would slide down underneath the horse and then come back up on the other side or the same side, I don't remember, Absolutely bizarre. But the artistic director said that was originally something that Cossack soldiers did in battle to keep themselves from being killed. And that some of the circus performers were direct descendants of those Cossack warriors. And although they no longer needed this skill in battle, they still did it in the circus. And I thought, I just don't think that way. I don't have that kind of imagination. If I were on a horse in battle and somebody came at me with a spear, I would presume I was going to die. I would not think, well, you know what, I better get up underneath my horse and hold on and then come back up. How do you learn how to do that? Why would the horse cooperate? How many bones do you break trying to learn how to do that? And yet, centuries, that skill gets passed down and is still available to the circus. Circus people and church people believe impossible things. How is it that people who experience devastating loss, deep grief, crippling addiction, still come to church, imagining the impossible idea that healing might be available to them? We believe that somehow there's something stronger than us that sees us and knows us and is able to catch us before we crash and shatter. Church offers us hope and healing and hospitality, and we can begin to imagine that maybe we won't be broken forever. How is it that we look at what's happening in our nation right now, see the egregious damage being done by the felon who is temporarily president, and still we come here every week and affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, even the ones that are doing us harm. We believe impossible things. The time is coming when this temporary president and his associates will be gone, and they will leave ruin in their wake, and repairing the damage will take many years and strong people. Church people are going to show up. All different kinds of church people. And we won't care what their theology is, and we won't worry about what they mean when they say God, and we won't quibble about what religious languages we use. We're going to be there. We're going to be doing the work. Because church people are the healers. Look at you all. You are the healers. You are the holders of hope. We are. We believe impossible things. Another thing that the church and the circus have in common is that we both have a safety net. In the circus, it's huge and strong and flexible, and it's set up very carefully by people who know how to engineer the setting of it. In the church, it's us. It's each other. When one of us falls, the others are there to gather around and catch them. And we don't let each other crash. We're skilled in the engineering of our safety net, too. The circus and the church have not come this far by being timid. We are both still here in spite of centuries of challenges that might have stopped us along the way, but they didn't. Believing impossible things has served us well throughout history, and it is going to continue to carry us forward. And so may it be.
Sarah, that was, as usual, wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. As you were talking, it struck me there's another group that you need to add to that, and that is the Olympians. The Olympians who also just accomplish and believe amazing feats. Whoever would, for the first time, decide to turn a somersault in the air and think they wouldn't land on their head, or jump off of a ski slope and fly through the air. I mean, those people are amazing as well. Believing in the impossible is an amazing feat.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. That was really great. Just a brief historical note. My grandparents were in the circus.
Really? Oh, man,
they-
tell me more.
Well, they started out as equestrian acrobats. And then I think that's the career path. My grandpa became a clown later as he got older. But anyway, I do get the idea that the church is going to play a big role in recovery. One thing I'm worried about is the church is it's a broad term that covers a lot of people, including a lot of the president's supporters.
Mhm.
And so I think part of the challenge is to bridge that divide.
Yes.
I'm not sure how to do it, but I think it's going to be key.
I don't know how to do it either, but and I don't want to, but the church that I attend is in a fairly conservative area of Richmond, and that divide is clear. And I don't know how we're going to do it, but I know we know how to do impossible things in that church, and we are starting some workshops soon. And my personal hope is that I will not be rude and snotty, and recognize the inherent worth and we've got that behind us, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, even the ones who are so deeply wrong, and but still, yeah.
In 1997, 7 people got together in a home. One of those was a temporary resident in this area that had just gone through an impossible situation where he had a tumor in his brain and it was removed. And he was here basically recovering. The other 6 talked about, well, with his guidance, could we create a UU church in this area? That was
It
impossible.
was impossible.
And a decade or so after that, that group said, could we build a church? No, we can't do that. That's way too expensive, and it is a tremendous burden for the future. That's impossible. Have no idea how all that happened.
I thought about that so much when I was getting ready for this service, that you all know all about impossible. And yeah, I thought about it a
But
lot.
we also know, because of you, the universe knows what it's doing.
Yes.
We say that all
The universe knows what it's doing. And look at your lighthouse. Look at this. Yeah. Man, oh man. You know all about impossible.
I love your comparison of the Circus and church. And it really does make sense to put it together. My concern as we look at going forward, the whole war on DEI and the fact that a lot of prejudice has emerged against women, as people of color, against immigrants. And I wonder, at what point can we start repairing and making, I'm hoping that little by little, we can start making all those people feel that they are part of the whole web of people that belong in the United States. And so this to me is one of the big damages that are being done.
And I think that prejudice that you speak about has been there all along. It's just been underground.
Yeah.
And the thing about having it erupt to the surface now, all right, is that now we see it. And now we can do something about it.
It's been given permission.
Yes. Yes. Remember Peter Mayer, do y'all know the UU musician? And he sings about thinking like a mountain with million-year mind. And at these times, it helps very much to think like a mountain, to think about history, what we have overcome throughout history. We're gonna be damaged, but we're still here, and we know what we're doing. Look around you. We're healers.
I wish there were more of us, though.
I know, but
But one of the things is that, unfortunately, Christianity in the United States has a lot to do with what we have today, because they did follow him. That's the irony of this whole thing. And, one quote that I read from the new Pope Leo, is that if your conscience is disturbed, why are you quiet?
mm-hmm.
And that really, of all the things that I've read about him, which is a lot, that really stuck to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We got somebody in the back.
Oh.
Sing out when you need it.
Sitting here thinking, I'm listening to all the comments and I'm thinking to myself, I think that there is a possibility, and I'm going to hold on to the thought of possibility, that as we move forward through time, our younger generations are going to see things differently than the people that are leading us now. And I'm really hopeful that some of this belief in freedom will be stronger than we are seeing at the moment. And I think that's really important, because I think, here we are, a Memorial Day weekend, and what we're really talking about right now is our freedom. And so I'm hoping that the younger folks who have a different attitude towards DEI, towards immigrants, towards LGBTQ plus, all of those things, I really think there is hope.
Oh, yes.
And I really think there is possibility.
You're entirely right. I agree wholeheartedly. The young people I know, I have absolute faith in them. Absolute.
Oliver's going to be my first hope.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. See, here's Oliver sitting right here, and Oliver's friend. I didn't mean to leave you out. Yeah, we got a few young people here.
I'm reminded of the story. After a storm, a grandfather and the granddaughter are walking along the beach, and there are thousands of creatures that were washed upon the beach. And the granddaughter started picking them up and throwing them back in the ocean so they could live and survive. And the grandfather looked at his granddaughter and said, "There are thousands here. It's not going to make a difference." And she said, "Grandfather, it makes a difference to those I throw back into the ocean so they can survive."
Exactly. Exactly. And things that we do every day. You know that song. I'm not singing. Joy is an act of resistance. We know how to do every day tiny acts of resistance. We aren't lightweights. Yeah, Yeah. Well, okay.
Hearing a story about storm made me think about this past week. I was together with people from all across the state who are working in domestic violence shelters and sexual assault centers. And I was part of a group trying to help people see the possibilities of the future and also be making the tough decisions we have to make right now as government funded entities, at least in part, right? And one of the folks I was on a panel with shared a story about bison and storms and how bison, when a storm is coming, gather together, gather those who are most at risk in the center and the strongest around the edges, and they turn and face into the storm and go through it at whatever pace they can, but at a steady pace. They don't try to outrun it, right? When they are at their strongest, they are at the strongest part of that storm, right? And it was a powerful, powerful story. And I think there's a lot of lessons for us as a group as well, that
Absolutely.
we can't be cows in this situation, each looking out for ourselves and wandering and getting caught up and really wiped out by the storm. We really have to come together and put those people who are most at risk at this.
Exactly. Exactly. And I have said here, I've said many times, I know how hard it is to feel optimistic sometimes. And optimism is a feeling. Hope is a decision that we make. And we get to make that decision every day. And we are the right people to be making that decision to hope. Who else? I see a hand back in the back. Two hands back in the back.
If you would like to be part of the group doing some of the impossible, there's a fairly new group that meets at the library called Northern Neck Action Group. And the march that was in Kilmarnock about a month ago, that was us. Letter writing campaigns, Contact 5 is one of them. They're doing a lot of good things. So if you want to be part of that, see me during the refreshment time. I'll get your email and I'll get you on the email list for the next meetings.
I think in Irvington, because Kilmarnock was Whitestone. Yeah, Whitestone. When is that? June 14th. June 14th. Kilmarnock was what?
Diana and Kelly are in this group too, so you can also talk to them. But Kilmarnock said, "Oh, of course you can use the park." "Oh, no, we can't do that for political activities." And they came and said, "Well, we're allowed to use the sidewalks. It's public." "Well, you need insurance." "Well, no." And then the day before, you need insurance. And then you need to pay for the police. Well, this group has gotten the ACLU guidance on this and said you cannot treat one group different than you treat other groups. If you require insurance, you require insurance for everybody. If you require police protection, be paid, you require that for everybody. So this town's not too happy about that, but you know, this is a very active group. So
That's how you do it.
this is how you do it. And hopefully the town will come across. They're now writing their own guidances of how to do stuff. And we also have insurance under the State Democratic Committee has offered to cover any of the marches and things for us as under their insurance umbrella. So
Good.
we can do the impossible.
Of course, of course. Was there another hand? And in the meantime, I haven't said hi to the Zoom people. Hi, Zoom people. I can't see you, but I don't want to leave you out. Welcome to the Zoom people. Let's pretend they're real. I mean, surely there's somebody. My dog, when I'm on Zoom, has to come, and she doesn't understand why I'm talking and other voices are talking back and there are no people, and she has to get up and I have to show her the screen and it doesn't mean anything to her. It's peculiar. Okay. Who else are we done? Okay. I can't sing. My voice is no good, but I need you guys to sing loud so that all the afflicted and all those who mourn can hear us.
Here.
Okay.
Yes. So
Thank you.
thank you, Sarah. As I extinguish this flame, may it lighten our hearts and help us to be that change and to build that new world.
Make a circle.
Yes.
Now go in peace. May you leave this place knowing you are good, knowing you are strong, and knowing you are loved. Take your light and your strength and your love away from here and share them with this wounded world. And stay safe, my dear friends, until we meet again. Blessed be. Amen.
Why don't we all stay in place while Catherine gets our mom moved to this?
Okay.
Yeah, that's thank you.
Okay. Glad you came. Oh, I'm glad you're here.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lois. Happy birthday to you.
Now get up and get